Just because you failed the sonic rain boom 100,000 times in practice doesn't mean you won't be able to do it in front of an entire stadium full of impatient, supercritical sports fan ponies. It could be said that I have, on occasion, picked fights with opponents far outside my proverbial weight class. Hydras, Gorgon, Deus, Enclave troopers, dragons, mysterious, incomprehensible techno-monsters. More or less, I've survived with help, luck, wits, luck, unpredictability, luck, and more luck. So, pulling my gun on the biggest damn steel ranger I'd ever seen while outnumbered 3-1, with 3 of my friends bound and wearing explosive collars wouldn't actually have been all that unusual for me. Which, if anything, meant that it was even less likely to be a good idea. And for once, it wasn't my plan at the moment. "What the hell's going on here?" I asked as I pointed my horn at Lacuna. The purple alicorn caught my eye. "Step aside. You cannot honestly think to challenge us," the huge buck said with a dismissive wave of his hoof. He wasn't the one I was really paying attention to at the moment, though. "We freed Turnip and helped him recover his armor from a locker in the office," Lacuna said, her telepathy sending her words only to me. "Unfortunately, when we left we encountered the large one and his subordinates. They were less understanding of my appearance than the first pair we encountered. Scotch Tape was terrified of him and his demands for her pip-buck. We were outnumbered, and after so many teleports, I could not get away with the others. I would not abandon them, so I surrendered myself rather than fight. The goddess is quite put out with my weakness." "That cunt," I hissed, making the rangers look at each other. I probably looked like an idiot, a crazy mare, or both, but there was nothing new about that. I didn't know the rangers used slaves. Can't the alicorn just teleport out of the chains and collar? Though? "The collars are for our protection. Not that it's any of your concern," the huge buck said as one of the others trotted beside him. He was saying something about me being the one to drop a building on the Flash Phillies. "When we have done our duty and recovered the young lady's pip-buck, I will personally escort her to any location she desires." He looked at P-21. "This one, however, will be submitted to justice by our elder for attempting to place explosives on my person. And, of course, the alicorn will be treated as is appropriate for a captured enemy." P-21 has examined my collar, and it was some sort of proximity sensor that detonated itself and the other collars if I moved too far away. I frowned, wondering if she could maybe... And unfortunately, no. I cannot teleport us away and leave the bombs and bonds behind. She couldn't? Why? But then the super hive mind intellect being began to tell me exactly why. Oh, goddesses. Didn't she realize that I wasn't a smart pony? I lasted 5 seconds before my eyes began to glaze, which would be bad since I had 6 steel rangers looking at me. Fortunately, Lacuna finally realized how far over my head it was and stopped. Was it just me, or was she looking a bit smug? Damned big-horned alicorns. A little pink pony in my mind caught sight of the blue buck's lips moving as he looked right at me. Gee, I loved smart ponies. P-21 can't disarm it, he is sure, Lacuna said, but he needs a distraction. There was a pause. Then, he swears he will not miss up, like at Fallen Arch. I tried to calculate my odds of providing enough distraction for P-21 to get the collars off my friends before some pony pushed a button. Okay. On the other hoof, I couldn't see a detonator anywhere. That meant it was probably built into the armor. So obviously, no obvious pony to blast, which meant that the only way of getting the collar off was... Yeah, so... distraction it would have to be. Well, there was only one thing to do. Something stupid. In a snap, I had my shotgun out above me and cocked an explosive round with so much drama as I could muster. Well then, I'm afraid that you and I've got ourselves into a problem. I want you to let my friends go this instant. We were located at the crossroads of two major streets, with the firehouse occupying one corner. The rain had finally let up, and there was cover in the form of several rusted-out wagons. Blasted stores and 2- and 3-story buildings formed the bulk of ruins around us. Fittingly, there was a faded billboard that proclaimed, "Better whipped than stripped. Join the Steel Rangers today." "Do not interfere with our sacred duty, young mare. We are the Steel Rangers, proud inheritors of a noble and distinguished duty to safeguard Equestria and to reclaim and protect our artifacts of the glorious past." He rose onto his hind legs. I readied myself to jump aside as a super-heavy pneumatic stomp, but gasped as he thrust one hoof dramatically into the sky and flexed the other leg. "We are the last protectors of the equestrian wasteland, serving to put down monsters, fiends, and villains of all kinds, and we will not stop until we have fulfilled Applejack's wishes for a safe and prosperous future." Was he actually posing? My gun barrel dripped a little along with my draw. I pointed at their captives. "Right. Well, those are my friends you have there, mister." I tried to refocus myself. "So you best hand them over." He curled both his legs in front of me, and, sweet Celestia, I swore I saw the metal bulging. "I am Paladin Sugar Applebomb's Stronghoof, champion of the Steel Rangers and heir to the Stronghoof legacy." He dropped his hoofs to the ground with an impact that cracked the stones around him before turning to Lucky Lacuna. "This monstrosity is an Alicorn, one of an unholy army that has forever waged terrible warfare against my order all across Equestria. The filly possesses a functioning pickbuck, an example of one of the finest pieces of equestrian technology ever created, and this buck is guilty of attempting assault and interfering with our most sacred of duties." He snorted, and 2 jets of steam actually blasted from his nostrils, built into his metal helmet. "We are sworn to take them back to our order." That helped me refocus myself. "Well, I'm the security mare, and no ponies taking my friends anywhere like that. So, like I said, I'm afraid we have a problem, and if I have to take you all on, so be it. You'll be the first to go." 3 more rangers, bristling with guns, galloped onto the scene. "Of course, in the spirit of love and tolerance, I'm willing to negotiate," I said quickly. Then I blinked at the sight of the familiar gun. The armor might all look the same, but I never forgot a gun. "Radishes?" "Please, Paladin, but..." Radishes began, and the huge buck looked over at the bizarre, dangerous gleam in his glowing eyes. "I mean, Paladin Stronghoof? This is the mare who helped free Turnip from the Flashers." The buck with a missile launcher and Gatling gun combo coughed. "Yeah, I would have been a complete goner if she hadn't helped." "And she's been trying to stop the fighting in the hoof," added Fruit Salad. "Her friend's not a real Alicorn, at least not like the other ones." Okay, so not all rangers were jerks. I still was not happy with them. "As you said, which is why I was willing to spare the magnificent and terrible creature from a summary execution. But I cannot deny my oaths to our sacred order," he proclaimed, rearing once again and making all of us step back a little. "Oh, such a horrible conflict between 2 heroic characters," he proclaimed as he pressed his hoof to his brow. "Okay." I looked at Fruit Salad, trying to convey with a look that she'd been right. This pony was definitely not playing with a full deck. "Right. Okay, then. How to deal with a crazy huge pony in charge?" I needed all eyes on me. I took a deep breath and looked at Glory, but she simply gaped back at me with stunned bafflement. Clearly, this was too much for her to deal with. There was only one thing I could do. I took a deep breath and rose on my rear legs. My braces wobbled a little, but I pointed my left leg right at him and grinned as wide as I could. Paladin Sugar Apple Bomb Stronghoof, champion of the Steel Rangers and heir to the Stronghoof legacy. I, Blackjack, security mayor of Stable 99, descendant of the legendary card trick herself, challenge you to one-on-one combat for the safe release of my friends Lacuna, Scotch Tape, and P21. I easily imagined 9 jaws dropping at once. I could see at least 4. He looked down, way down, at me. For a moment, I had a horrible image of those massive piston hooves dropping and turning me into a round black and red pancake. But then, faster than I could believe possible, he moved. But rather than smearing me into pony jelly, he swept me into a massive hug, his speaker booming. What nobility! What courage! What heroism! Fighting a battle of impossible odds against a vastly superior foe for the safety and well-being of her comrades. Holding me easily in one foreleg, he thrust his hoof towards the sky. This is the embodiment of all things Rangers should strive for. He tossed me above the ground, catching me once more in his hooves and shaking me like a doll. I shall not decline your glorious sacrifice. Truly, this shall be a duel for the ages. My head reeled simply from the volume of the speaker. I was just about to tell him that I had reconsidered and would quite happily accompany him to speak with his supervisor when he set me down again. Prepare yourself, Blackjack. We engage in glorious combat. Hoof to hoof, armor to steel. None of the noise and vulgarity of firearms for warriors like us. We shall engage in a battle of gentle ponies. Wait, no guns? When I had agreed to no guns, that wasn't in the challenge. He was trotting away from the others, so I really had no idea how to bring it up. I looked at Glory, who hissed at me. Blackjack, what do you think you're doing? He's huge and in power armor. How are you supposed to fight that? Working on that part, I muttered. Why isn't he freaking out about my pip-buck? I asked as I glanced at her. I don't think they realize it's a pip-buck, she said softly. I had to admit she had a point. It was sleek and black and might have been part of the combat armor. It barely looked anything like a normal, big, gray, bulky pip-buck like Scotch Tape's. Small favors, I suppose. I just had to be sure not to use it where they could see it. Give me a buck, I said, not wanting to take my eye off her. She balked, and I quickly added, my legs are jelly, and I need all the muscle I can get. And I'm dead sooner or later anyway. Give me a buck. I remember a time when I knew chems were bad for you. Worst doctor ever. She sighed and fished out a tablet. As I chewed, she reached out and hugged me. Try for later, rather than sooner, she murmured in my ear. I've got many other surprises I want to show you. Okay, I could live for that. Chat with the other Rangers as much as you can. Keep their eyes off P21. So long as my friends could get to safety, that was all that really mattered. As I walked towards the huge, gold-decorated Ranger, I caught P21's eyes, then smiled and gave the tiniest nod. He could do this. Whatever had happened in Fallen Arch, I knew he wouldn't let me down again. He paused and gave a tiny nod back, then turned towards his tail. Now, all I had to do was put on a good show till they were free.